My name is Marco Zanetti. I am actually the president of the Italian Association of Sports Nutritionists. I have been working on the fields, on sports fields, for 25 years so far, and I've been working with hundreds of athletes. So my basic research is working with athletes. So I'm working on fields. So we do some research with universities. So we try to combine together the results that we get on fields with, for example, the lab results. But the majority of the sport nutritionists in Italy, for example, they work, for example, with the sports team. So this is basically what I do as a job. As far as my degrees, I am a pharmacologist. I have a major degree in applied nutrition, human nutrition, and I have a degree on sport nutrition, and at the same time on human biology. These are my degrees. It's a great relationship. You know, when I first started to work with athletes 25 years ago, I really understood the importance of nutrition to get a special performance results on athletes. You know, Mediterranean diet, when it was first started in the 1950s and 60s by Keyes, was a discovery for them, because they already had in the United States a really bad diet that is called the Western diet. But when Keyes came to Italy, for example, and studied the people that were aging very well, he found such a cultural system that really impressed him. So the basic principles that we have in the Mediterranean diet are very helpful for people and helping them to, to age, to slow age. And at the same time, for sports athletes, and the same principles that help people to stay healthy are the same ones that help the sports athlete to get a very high performance level. So, one of the things that we have in sport that is really a problem, for example, is doping, the use of drug in sport. And what I found very effective by using the Mediterranean diet style is that the majority of the food that we have in the Mediterranean diet are carbohydrates. So in general, when we give a diet to an athlete, we give from 50 to 60% of carbohydrates. And carbohydrates, actually, they work on an athlete as a substitute for drug. So what we get a better results in terms of body recomposition, a better results in terms of recovery from a sport activity, because carbohydrates stimulate the secretion of insulin, which is one of the major and most important hormone that we have in our body to help our muscles to recover from a sport activity. So this is for example, one of the reasons I think the Mediterranean diet fits very well for sports athletes. So we have in the Mediterranean diet a lot of foods that help people to slow age, but at the same time we have foods that help sports athletes to recover faster from their sports experience or sports activity. So I found perfect that the use of the Mediterranean diet lifestyle, I found it really fits really the necessity of a sport athlete. So during my 25 years, more and more we understand the greatness of our cultural diet, because Mediterranean diet, when we call Mediterranean, we remember our family, what we used to do in our own family. And this is our lifestyle. When we have to, for example, to share and to explain what we do in our own life, that is part of the Mediterranean diet, because Mediterranean diet is not just eating fruits and vegetables and olive oil and cereal. It's also a lifestyle, living together, stay together. And this is something, that is very tight and close to what the Japanese people, for example, do. They live in the family. Athletes, they have, first of all, to eat fruits and vegetables. At the base of the Mediterranean diet pyramid, there are fruits and vegetables, and these foods are the first one that needs to be introduced in the athlete's diet. And What are the reasons? First of all, when you do a sport activity, you increase the number of the toxins that your body produces during the sport activity. Your muscles produce toxins. Vegetables and fruits help your body to get rid of those toxins from your body. So this is important. And at the second time, fruits give you a rapid, very fast sustain to your muscle in order to recover the glycogen, which is the reserve of carbohydrates that we can find in muscles. So the first foods that we need to introduce to the sports athlete are fruits and vegetables, followed by cereals and legumes, and then also proteins. As I said at the beginning, Mediterranean diet is a cultural lifestyle, and the history of the Mediterranean diet goes back to thousands of years ago. When we first introduced the fermented food, for example, we introduced yogurt. We can find different type of yogurt, which is a fermentation of milk in different areas of the Mediterranean area, because Mediterranean diet belongs to Italy, but also to other countries, for example, Albania, Turkey, Morocco, Greece. They all use the Mediterranean diet. For example, in yogurt, they have different kind of yogurt or milk fermentation. And this goes back in thousands of years ago. Also, we have other products that are very important in the Mediterranean diet, which are fermented. For example, we have vegetables, fermented vegetables, for example, capers or cauliflowers. So why do we use fermented food in our diet? For two reasons. We have to give this food because they are prebiotics and probiotics. Prebiotics because they give substances that help our microbiome, that is the microorganisms that live in our guts and intestines, the food necessary for them to grow, so a healthy microbiome, and also probiotics because there are bacteria, very healthy bacteria that reach the last part of the intestine and help us to stay healthy. The relationship between microbiome, so the microorganism that we can find in our intestines, and our health is very close. So the more we keep our intestine healthy, healthier we are. That's why we introduced fermented food. So there are a variety of number of fermented food in the Mediterranean diet that also help this food to preserve, because the fermentation is a process to preserve food. And then the classical, fermented food that we use in the Mediterranean diet are, for example, bread, which is a fermented food, and wine, which is also a fermented food. And first, the Keys came to Italy and studied the Mediterranean diet. He saw the people at the end of the Second World War very active physically. But at the beginning, when they built the Mediterranean pyramid, they didn't actually added the physical activity as part of the Mediterranean diet, but they just included the different types of foods that must be included in Mediterranean diet in order to have an health effect. In the 1990s, the Mediterranean diet, the pyramid, has changed. And at the bottom of the Mediterranean diet, they had another stripe, which is physical activity. Because in order to stay healthy, the body needs to move. So till 1960s and the 70s, people were more active, they were moving. Now we are more in office in front of, for example, on a PC, we work on a distance and we stay more home or we stay more in the office and we move less. And we found that the effect of Mediterranean diet stops when the physical activity stops. That's why now, when we, since the Mediterranean diet lifestyle is a very important, is a UNESCO, receive a UNESCO prize. Right now, we need also to suggest physical activity. Otherwise, the effects of the Mediterranean diet are not seen on populations. So we need to combine things. We need to combine food and physical activity in order to have the effects that we have seen in the population. The slow aging process is a process that we obtain because we combine these two things together. Obviously, when we talk about sports athletes, they already have an activity because they are very active in sports, so they need to do that. But for the other population, the other people in the population, we need to actively suggest that they add physical activity in their habits during the day. I can give you a practical example of a breakfast that I give to an athlete. I generally give a diet divided in two parts. One diet for a training day and another diet, for example, a resting day, a day where they don't work out, they don't train. So in generally, the basic thing is to start with fruits. Why? Because the glucose in blood is very low in the morning. We have an increase of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And we need to fight the increase of cortisol by adding fruits in the breakfast. So fruits is part and must be part of the breakfast of everyone. Then, for example, we give a fermented food, which is yogurt, that is much more digestible than milk. For example, 100 grams or 200 grams of yogurt depends on the diet, because we need calcium, we need very good protein, which, you know, the protein contained in milk are pre-digested and very easily to digest. Then combined with yogurt, we need the cereals. Cereal, because these are very long-lasting carbohydrates givers as part of foods. So, for example, fruits increase your body glucose rapidly, and cereal will keep the body glucose to a stable level. And the kind of cereals that we suggest is all cereals. So not refined cereal. That's important, because in the past, when they discovered and they studied the Mediterranean diet, people were using all kinds of cereals, and especially all, so integral, so with the fibers with the grain. So the refined cereals are not part of the Mediterranean diet. And then the difference between a workout breakfast, good breakfast, and a non-workout breakfast could be the source of protein and fat. So we generally add 1 or 2 eggs in the morning. And this could be an example of a Mediterranean breakfast for sport athletes during workout day or a rest day. Wine is part of the Mediterranean diet because originally wine was part of our life. It's a fermented food from grapes. It's very rich on polyphenols and chemical substances that help our body to stay healthy. And of course, it has alcohol, which might be a problem if we drink in very high quantity. So the wine could be included in the diet. It's not mandatory. It means you could have a very good Mediterranean diet without drinking wine, of course. But if someone, for example, wants to add some wine in his diet, and especially if it's an athlete, a quantity, like for example, half a glass at dinner, or even 1 glass at dinner, depends the body weight of people. So if you are very small and tiny, or if you are a woman, I would suggest, for example, half a glass of wine. If you are a weightlifter and you weigh like 100 or 110 kilos, of course, you could drink also 1 glass of wine in the evening. You know, the effects of wine are very good because they relax you, and it gives you a lot of relaxation to the blood vessels, and is very good for heart, and it has a very high amount of components which are very healthy. The only problem with wine is the content of alcohol. That's why we need to keep it to a controlled level of wine consumption. So that's, I suggest, half glass or 1 glass of wine per day, no more than that. But it's part of the Mediterranean diet, and of course can be added to the Mediterranean diet. I know it because not the majority, but I would say 5% or 6% of the athletes that are working with me are vegans. So sometimes they ask me, how would you work with a vegan person or a vegetarian person? You know the difference. And can you use a Mediterranean diet on on an athlete and ask you and wants to be a vegan or vegetarian, you know, Mediterranean diet combines all diet. We can use the effect of the Mediterranean diet on other diets as well. You can be vegetarian, but at the same time use the principle of the Mediterranean diet. Or, for example, you can use the zone diet and use the Mediterranean diet principles. Or you can use the keto diet and at the same time use the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet actually combines them all. And vegetarians, like for example, this Japanese diet, there was a religious sort of cultural. We do have the same kind of things here in Italy. You know, people that decide to be vegans or vegetarian because of religion purpose. But we can have the effect of Mediterranean diet on these people. We just need to be careful on the amount of protein and the amount of vitamins that we have in the diet. But you know, when we studied the effect, the long-term effect on the body health, we found the same principles that we can find on a vegetarian diet that we found in the Mediterranean diet. So the basic of both diets are fruits, vegetables, cereals, and legumes. Then, of course, the difference is the fact that some people add white meat or fish or red meat, seldom. And that's the difference between. But you can have a Mediterranean diet also applied to athletes or people who wants to follow a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle. You only need to be precise when you make the calculation and work on an athlete. So you want to make sure that they have all the nutrients that they need in order to recover from a sport activity and to increase their performance. But everything can be done. So this kind of diet, this new cuisine that are, you know, are born and are new, they always take some principles from old lifestyle, like for example the Mediterranean diet. So the Mediterranean diet combines them all. I would say that the Mediterranean diet is the mother of them all. Mio nome è Marco Zanetti, sono un biologo, farmacologo e nutrizionista sportivo, presidente dell'Associazione Nazionale Italiana dei Nutrizionisti dello Sport qua in Italia. Mi occupo di attività fisica e sono un promotore della dieta mediterranea. E quindi vi invito tutti a provare i principi della dieta mediterranea e a lavorare assieme a noi per una popolazione più sana.